This has been a big battle. It started in 2020, so now it's 2023. It's been going on for 3 years. We haven't gotten one record yet. Speaking of Joe Biden and documents, do you know he had classified records from his time as a senator? Now, the Presidential Records Act doesn't apply to the Senate. He can't have classified records in his files. He's not allowed to. He's broken the law. Are you aware? And by the way, he's also had records from his days as vice president. You remember in his garage and things like that. I'm not aware of any people being called before a grand jury by that so-called investigation. Are you? But getting back to the Senate records, he's got 1,800 boxes of Senate records that he's hiding from the American people in the University of Delaware as a result of a secret deal. Now, Judicial Watch and the Daily Caller News Foundation sued in Delaware State Court for these records. And, the initial rulings were, they're not records under FOIA because there's no government money being used to take care of them. And we said, well, give us the documents showing that that's true. And tell us what the deal is. What's the secret deal? How's it being funded? Things like that. And they don't want to tell us that, right? And so in order to get the documents, we kind of have to show, in large measure, that there was government money behind them, in addition to Joe releasing them. But, evidently that's not going to happen. So we've been pushing and pushing, and we wanted the Delaware Supreme Court, who initially the court wanted the lower court to, consider this issue about getting this secret deal public to Judicial Watch and the Daily Caller News Foundation. And then the court ruled against us again, and so we went back up to the Delaware Supreme Court. So next week, the day after President Trump has to go to Miami for his indictment, there's a court hearing or court argument in the Delaware Supreme Court up in Delaware about the secret deal between Delaware, the University of Delaware, and Joe Biden to keep every one of his records secret until at least 2 years after he leaves political life. Isn't that convenient? So the argument will take place on June 14th. We have filed a request for all records about this deal, and the Daily Caller News Foundation wanted the boxes of records as well. So this has been a big battle. It started in 2020, so now it's 2023. It's been going on for 3 years. We haven't gotten one record yet. And it's been back and forth in the Delaware courts. Isn't it interesting how it's Judicial Watch and the Daily Caller News Foundation that's doing the heavy lifting here, and the media doesn't care? It's the President of the United States. No one cares what he did as a senator. Jeez. Well, how corrupt the media is. And we're also asking, let me get back to where we are. So we asked for these records, right? And what happens is that the University of Delaware keeps on telling us there's no public money, but they don't want to give us the information to show that's the case. And so we filed another appeal with the Supreme Court that they're going to hear this next week, as I said. And part of that appeal is we're seeking discovery. We want to know what's going on here with how this is funded. Despite FOIA's acknowledgement, this is Delaware FOIA law, that public entities as instruments of government should not have the power to decide what is good for the public to know, over the multi-year course of this FOIA proceeding, the university's efforts to satisfy its statutory burden of proof have been parceled out piecemeal in minuscule increments and only in response to court orders entered after briefing by appellants. When the shortcomings of the university's efforts are noted in briefing, the university calls foul. The university's umbrage at these proceedings is misplaced. To date, the FOIA coordinator's efforts and her recollections of steps she took remain untested by cross-examination. Appellants have every right to challenge what they believe has been a lackluster effort by the university to satisfy statutory burden. So essentially they're saying, well, I've been told or I heard there's no money from the public funds being used, and that's not good enough for court work, right? And as we note about the secret classified records, while in the Senate, Biden served as chairman and ranking member of the Foreign Relations Committee, which would have given him access to classified records. Bob Bauer, Biden's personal attorney, stated in January of 2023, earlier this year, that classified Senate records were discovered during a search at Biden's Wilmington, Delaware home. The Justice Department, quote, took possession of materials it deemed within the scope of its inquiry, including 6 items consisting of documents with classification markings and surrounding materials, some of which were from the President's service in the Senate. And then since then, Garland appointed a special counsel, Mr. Hur, H-U-R, to investigate Biden's potential mishandling classified documents. And that's been radio silence ever since. Our friend at the Daily Caller News Foundation, Michael Bastach, who is the editor-in-chief, said, no more obfuscation, no more excuses. It's time for the University of Delaware to answer for its refusal to release Biden's Senate records. The sketchy secrecy on the Biden Senate records and his deal with the University of Delaware need to end. And President Biden could end the dispute simply by releasing the records. But what is he hiding, right? He doesn't want to do it, so what is he hiding? So people say, what can we do? Well, we can do what Judicial Watch is doing, right? We have this terrible indictment. We have this disparate treatment between Trump and Biden and Hillary. I mean, it was Judicial Watch who uncovered the Hillary records and the emails and the corruption there. It's Judicial Watch in litigation in Delaware, all the way up in Delaware, on the Biden Senate records. It's Judicial Watch who's suing the agencies for records about the Trump raid and the abuse of Trump on this presidential records issue. But we've taken this leadership, and I encourage you, if you haven't already, to support Judicial Watch. You can go to our website at judicialwatch.org, and otherwise, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, on Truth Social, on Rumble, or YouTube, wherever you take your social media from. I think you should follow us everywhere. I think conservatives should be everywhere, by the way, if they can. And spread the word, because we're an educational foundation ultimately. And so our goal through litigation is to educate the American people. And what better way to do it than with your help? So not only support us with your most generous financial support, but support us by helping us get the word out and spreading the truth to your fellow patriots, family members, business colleagues, folks you go to church with, etc. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.